Hello everyone! I am glad to welcome you to the next part of the course QA Become a Game Tester. Today we will talk about game testing in general, or game testing generic. We will learn the types of bugs, the stages of project development, and we'll touch upon the topic of different game platforms. So let's get started. All the topics that we will discuss in this part of the course are really important for understanding the profession as a whole and for clear vision of product development. Today's plan will be as follows. We will talk about the main stages of project development in the video game industry, look at different types of bugs that are inherent in almost any game during its development, take a look at the main gaming platforms, analyze their specifics, and understand what compliance is and who first-party members are. Let's first talk about what game development pipeline is. The game development pipeline, or game development process, is a sequential process that developers follow to create a video game from concept to release. And the milestone is an important point or event that's marked during an execution of a project or product development. In the context of video game development, milestones are used to define key points or achievements in the game creation process. They serve as visual points in the project timeline and allow you to define intermediate goals, monitor progress, and interact with stakeholders. Each milestone usually includes specific goals, tasks, or deliverables that must be achieved by a certain deadline. They can include milestones such as completing a prototype, implementing core game mechanics, finishing levels or stages, testing, and other key events in the development process. Milestones help the development team track project's progress, evaluate performance, identify issues, and adapt to plans. They also help management, investors, and other stakeholders to visualize the project's progress and movement forward, and to make decisions about additional funding, changes in timeline, or resource assignments. According to project management, establishing milestones is an important practice for managing projects and ensuring that the project is successfully completed on time and according to plan. There are three main stages in the development process: pre-production, production, and post-production. Each of them has its own peculiarities and follows each other. Pre-production is a stage in the video game development process that precedes the main production phase. This stage is preparatory and includes planning, research, and preparation of everything necessary to start the actual development of the game. The pre-production process allows the game development team to prepare the production phase and ensure a clear understanding of the game and its requirements for the successful completion of the project. It's also worth mentioning two main attributes of the pre-production stage in more detail. The first of them is GDD, or Game Design Document. Game Design Document is a document that describes the concept, gameplay, and all important aspects of creating a video game. A GDD is an important tool in game development that's used to store and transfer information between members of the development team. The main purpose of GDD is to agree on the internal game development plan to ensure that all team members and project customers have the same understanding of what the final product should look like. A typical GDD consists of the following information: game description, a brief overview of game including the general idea, genre of the game, the setting, story elements, etc. Target audience, identification of main audience that the game is aimed at, including age, groups, interests, preferences, etc. Gameplay, a detailed description of the game's mechanics, rules, systems, levels, characters, interface, and even everything. Graphics and sound, description of the game's visual style, artistic concepts, animations, sound effects, music, etc. Game progress. A description of the game's progression, achievements, difficulty levels, save systems, and other. Multiplayer. If the game includes multiplayer, a description of network features, game modes, even player connections. Work schedule. Definition of development stages, tasks, and deadlines. Distribution of tasks between team members and prioritization. The GDD is a main document used during game development to ensure unity of vision and simplify communication between developers. It serves as a reference and basic for further stages of development, including prototyping, levels, graphics, and programming. The second attribute is prototyping. Prototyping in game development refers to the process of creating trial versions of a video game in order to test and validate the idea, gameplay, mechanics, and other aspects of the game before it's fully developed. Prototypes can be created at different stages of the game development and have different levels of detail. The main goals of prototyping in game developments are: validation of the idea. A prototype helps to check whether the game idea works in practice and allows you to identify the strengths and weaknesses of the concept and to make adjustments to it. Gameplay testing. A prototype allows you to test different mechanics, game rules, and player interactions with the environment. This allows you to identify possible problems, make changes, and improve the gameplay. Attracting investors or publishers. A prototype can serve as a tool for presenting a game and attracting the attention of potential investors or publishers. It demonstrates the game's potential and its features. Team communication. The prototype helps the development team to better understand and communicate with each other about the project. It creates the shared vision and is used to discuss and improve the game concept. Prototypes can be different levels of detail, from simple samples of basic shapes and primitive mechanics to something more developed with balanced gameplay, visual, and sound. It's important to focus on the key aspects of the game and test them before further development. Prototypes can be created using special prototyping tools, game development engines, or even by manually creating simple trial versions. Our next milestone is production. Production in game development is a stage of active game development, when the team is engaged in the actual creation of content, programming, and integration of all game elements into a single finished product. Production in game development requires the cooperation and coordination of all members of the development team to ensure the successful implementation of the game and ensure its timely delivery. Let's talk about the main stages of production. The first one is first playable. First playable prototype, or FPP, is an important stage in the game development. It's the first prototype of the game that has enough functionality to allow the player to interact with main elements of the game and get a general idea of gameplay and feelings that the game is trying to convey. In general, the FPP is an important step in game development, where the main goal is to test the concept, functionality, and feel of the game in really early stages, just to ensure the right direction for further development. Our second stage is vertical slice. Vertical slice is a concept used to create a complete game experience within a limited amount of time and resources. Vertical slice is a comprehensive game prototype that includes all the main aspects of gameplay, visuals, and sound. Vertical slice helps the development team to set realistic expectations of the game. It helps to establish quality standards and test and show the potential value of the game before going into full production. Our next step is the pre-alpha. Pre-alpha is early stage of video game development when the game is still in extremely imperfect state and has limited functionality. Pre-alpha takes place after prototyping and before the alpha version of the game. Its goal is to identify problems, refine and improve the game before moving on to the next stages of development such as alpha or beta testing. Alpha. Alpha is a stage of video game development when the basic functionality of the game is already present and the game can be played in full mode. The alpha version of the game is like the first version in which all key elements of the game are implemented and combined into the single system. Let's talk about its main features. The first one is completeness. The alpha version has a full gameplay, including all the main features, levels, characters, mechanics, and even user interface. Players can explore the game world, interact with it, and experience the core mechanics. Second feature is debugging. At the alpha stage, developers are actively working on identifying and fixing bugs, shortcuts, any problems of the game. Testing the game involves both internal developers and external testers, which helps to identify and solve problems before the game is released in the next stage. Another feature is visual style. At alpha stage, the game may have a basic visual style and aesthetic, also certain elements of graphics, textures or models may be temporary or subject to further optimization. And the last feature is changes and additional content. During the alpha stage, changes may be made to gameplay. New content elements can also be added just to expand the gameplay and strengthen the game's message. The alpha stage is an important step in game development, as it allows you to collect feedback from players and solve key problems before moving to the next stage, beta testing. Beta is the stage of video game development when the game is almost complete and has a full range of content and functionality. The beta version of the game is released to a wide range of players and it's used for final testing, for bug detection, and of course for feedback collection. The main features of beta. The first feature is full content. The beta version of the game has the full amount of content, including all levels, all characters, finalized story, game mechanics, and other elements. Players can enjoy the full game experience. Second feature is testing. The beta phase is used to test the game extensively among a large audience of players. This helps to identify and fix bugs, glitches and flaws in the game before the final release. Optimization. During beta testing, developers work on optimizing the game and establishing performance on different systems and reduce resource usage. Feedback. Players participating in beta testing provide feedback to developers. This can include bug reports, suggestions for improvements, gameplay comments, and so on. The developers use this feedback to improve the game before its release. The beta stage is the last stage of testing before the game is released. After identifying and solving the problems that arise during the beta testing, the game is ready for the final release, which can be the release or just the final version of the game. Beta testing can be either closed or open, like open-close beta. Open beta allows not only developers but external testers to see the game and get feedback from them, which can really help in solving a huge amount of problems during the production stage. The last hour stage that we are going to talk about is the Gold Master. Gold Master in game dev refers to the final version of the game that is considered ready for mass release and distribution. This means that the developers consider that the game is stable, complete, and ready to be produced on physical media or distributed electronically. Let's talk about main features of Gold Master. Completeness. The Gold Master is considered to be the final version of the game, which has full functionality, content, and is ready to be played. All the main elements like levels, characters, story, game mechanics, and other aspects have already been implemented and passed internal testing. Bug fixes. Before the game becomes Gold Master, the developers are actively working on fixing any bugs and issues that were found during the previous stages of development and testing. Stability. The Gold Master version must be stable, meaning that the game should run without critical errors, crashes, or unpredictable issues on the wide range of devices and platforms. Production and distribution. Once the game becomes a Gold Master, it's ready for production on physical media, such as discs, or for electronic distribution through digital platforms such as online game stores. Gold Master is an important step that indicates the completion of development and confirms that the game is ready to release and access to players. Once production is complete and the game has shipped, the game development process continues with some team members being relegated to maintenance, like fixing bugs, creating patches, creating bonus or downloadable content, like DLC. Others may move into the sequel or the next project. Post-production in game development refers to the stage of video game development that comes after the game is released and includes the number of actions and processes aimed at maintaining and improving the game after its release. Let's talk about the main aspects of post-production in game development. And the first aspect is support. After a game is released, the development team is involved in maintaining the game, resolving issues that players may have while playing the game, and releasing patches or updates that fix some bugs, problems, and add new content or features. Second aspect is updates. Developers can release updates to a game, which may include new content, story, or gameplay expansions, graphic enhancements, optimization, and other improvements to provide players with new experience and keep them interested in the game. And the last but not the least is the player feedback. Post-production includes the collection and analysis of players' feedback, which can come through forums, social media, or official communication channels. This feedback helps developers to understand the problems of players, their wishes, and suggestions which help to improve the game. To perform such work, there's also a separate department of testers, Live QA. This is a team of smaller number of testers that was created specifically to support the game in a live format. The team is usually formed from the most experienced testers who worked with the project during its development. The live QA is the type of testing released game when team is looking for feedback from users and forums and try to reproduce the issue to give additional details to development team.